Now, this little boy's father, got his ass to apologize to this black family because he called them a racial slur or whatever, like the N word or whatever, whatnot. And see, he just stepped up to the plate, you know what I'm saying, why you out there goddamn man? Real though, why? Because he called the kids the N word or whatever whatnot. Real though. So yeah, I mean shit. He told them if he said that again, he was gonna fuck him up. That's hey, that's some interesting shit, gang. I'm just gonna say, real though, I'm gonna commit that, but real though, that's some crazy, that's some shit that parents need to do right there. You know what I'm saying? Real though. Anyway, now this cop, shot this man in his leg with some bean bags with a shotty or whatever whatnot. Real though, shot him 6 times. Dude was bleeding. His legs was bleeding for real though. But he didn't get held accountable for that. Now when it's black cop shot this other dude or whatever whatnot with a beanbag one time, they charged him for doing that or whatever whatnot because the color of his skin was different or whatever. Anyway, yeah, he didn't want to comply with the sheriff or nothing like that or whatever. But the sheriff, what I'm saying, just got this other black dude to actually talk to him or whatever, and he complied with him. Yeah, and he told him to go back to his cell or whatever. Went back to his cell. Then he started kicking that cell door or whatever, whatnot. And shit, I guess dude didn't wanna just leave him alone or nothing like that. For real. So he just just hit him up with some beanbags. And I'm talking about the sheriff that one of them keep on messing with the prisoner or whatever whatnot. For real, because yeah, because he didn't comply with him or whatever whatnot. That's what I'm saying, yeah. For real though, that's shit crazy as fuck though. Anyway, so now, shit, this woman actually heard that our child was getting abused at school or whatever by that step or whatever whatnot. For real though. And they didn't and it was a big deal. They thought he was just making it up. And they didn't want to do nothing about it because they thought he was making it up. She put a camera right up in his hair so everything could be shown on video and shit. They couldn't even say none. For real though, they was shot when she snapped. For real though. Anyway, gang, that's some that's some crazy shit. I mean, and the boy was only 7 years old. A 7-year-old, really though. Treat that punching bag or rag down with the principal or the teachers and shit. That shit is crazy, gang. They out of pocket for that shit. That's on bro. Real though. Anyway, so yeah, these 5 individuals was up to no good doing some crazy shit. For real though. But the brother actually was fucking with evidence or whatever or not and shit. It was crazy as hell, but these, like, you know, poor Caucasian, like, individuals end up killing this 16-year-old girl up in the woods or whatever. They beat her and then they shot her or whatever, whatnot. And, like, one of the, like, you know, females, like, you know, was actually trying to, like, you know, like, you know, just, like, you know, go on them room or whatever, whatnot. She stole, like, you know, the sheriff's car and then rode off or whatever. See, that's what I'm talking about. They being too gentle with these, like, individuals, gang. For real though, I'm like, that shit is crazy as hell. For real though, but they caught her ass and they caught the motherfucker that was trying to, like, you know, hire her ass. You know what I'm saying? And that's the fifth guy right there. For real though. That was some crazy shit. For real though. Anyway, so I'm like, damn. But they didn't get away with shit. For real though. Anyway, so yeah, this, like, you know, attorney called, like, you know, person, member up in the courtroom or whatever, whatnot, and kept on using that racial slur or whatever, whatnot. And, like, they, like, you know, people that stand up, like, you know, like, you know, for, like, black people or whatever, got on his age or whatever, whatnot. His ass couldn't say none. He was, like, you know, just shook. He just ignored it and just, like, walked in the courtroom and all that shit. Then he apologized. He just apologized like a motherfucker. For real though. Why? Because he should not be saying that shit. For real though. He was out of pocket for that shit. For real though. Anyway, that made me think about, like, you know, when, like, you know what I'm saying, the bikers had this, like, one dude, like, this Caucasian dude, apologized to this black woman because he called her, like, you know, racial slur or whatever, whatnot. For real though. And that was, like, that was some cool shit right though. For real though, because, like, that was, like, crazy as hell. For real though, I mean, like, how that dude jump out and just say the fucking word or whatever, whatnot. For real though. Anyway, I mean, like, shit, we hear that shit a bunch of times. For real though. Anyway, it's now these college shorties, like, you know, end up saying the N-word up on that, like, you know, up in the video or whatever, whatnot. And, like, you know, all three of them got in trouble. All three of them got in trouble like a motherfucker. For real though. I mean, like, the employees got, like, you know, fired from their jobs for that shit and all that. For real though. And, like, so they did say, apologize and shit like that. For real though. Saying that shit. For real. But her ass still got suspended for that shit. That was some, like, you know, that's some, you know what I'm saying? Like, they hold her accountable for that shit. For real though. Anyway. So, I'm just, like, you know, checking out some, like, you know, other shit or whatever. But, yeah, I mean, like, shit, it's like, goddamn. It's crazy as hell. For real though. I mean, like, you could just be walking out, like, you know, side, minding your goddamn business. And then next thing you know, a racist couple might end up just coming up to you and saying whatever the fuck they want out their mouths to you. Or whatever, whatnot. For real though, up there, like, you know, saying some racist shit or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's just, like, crazy. You know what I'm saying? Crazy as hell. You know what I mean? For real though. Anyway, about that teacher that, like, you know, was saying that, like, you know, racist shit up in the classroom or whatever. The staff put her up to that shit. They put her up to that shit. And they, like, you know, wanted to punish the kids. Because they let her go and they brought her back. And they said if the kids use any profanity, they was going to, like, get kicked out and sent to an alternative school. For real though. That's some old bullshit. For real though. But, yeah, that's how they are. And they, like, you know what I'm saying? They do that shit. I mean, like, shit. I mean, like, that's crazy as fuck. But, hey, I mean, like, if it didn't change for years, it's not gonna change now. For real though, it's gonna always be the fucking same, you know what I mean? And that's on bro. So anyway, like, comment, and subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, hit the bell on notification so you see my next upload and my next post, and I'll make sure I make another one tomorrow. And oh yeah, you can check out my previous videos if you like, gang. So long, farewell, goodbye.